A black Mercedes barreled over the curb at 40 miles per hour. Elias Thorne never saw it coming. One moment, he was holding his wife Clara's hand, strolling home from church the way they had every Sunday for 48 years. The next, he was airborne, a 70-year-old man tumbling through the night like a discarded rag doll. Clara screamed. The Mercedes screeched to a stop. A man staggered out, reeking of scotch. "Why the hell were you in my way?" He seized Clara's arm and raised his hand. A voice sliced through the darkness, calm, cold, absolute. "Touch her again, and I'll break every bone in that hand. Before we go any further, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story has traveled. And if it moved you, please like and subscribe so we can keep following journeys like this to the very end. Now let's go back to the beginning. Elias Thorne had lived 70 years on this earth, and he had learned that the best moments were always the quietest. Sunday evenings were his favorite. After the hymns, the handshakes, and the familiar faces at church, he and Clara would walk home together. 3 blocks, 15 minutes, 48 years of the same route, the same gentle silence, the same feeling of her hand resting perfectly in his. Tonight was no different. "The tomatoes," Elias said, breaking the quiet. "I think I'll plant them closer to the fence this year. More sunlight." Clara squeezed his hand. "You said that last year." "Did I?" "You did, and the year before that." Elias chuckled. 70 years old, and his wife still caught every repeated thought. That was marriage, being known so completely that even your habits became familiar music. "Well," he said, "maybe this year I'll actually do it." "Maybe you will." They walked on. Streetlights flickered to life. The air carried the scent of fresh-cut grass and approaching rain. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked twice, then fell silent. Elias was thinking about his garden, about how tomato vines always reach for the sun, about how growth is slower than you expect, but far more certain. He was not thinking about death. He should have been. Headlights appeared without warning, not from the street but from the sidewalk. A black Mercedes leapt the curb, engine roaring, moving far too fast for a quiet residential neighborhood. Elias had 1 second to react, 1 second to register the impossible. A car hurtling straight at them on the footpath. He shoved Clara aside. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't heroic. It was pure instinct, the desperate need to place his body between danger and the woman he loved. Clara stumbled sideways, striking a mailbox, crying out in surprise and pain. Elias didn't hear her. The Mercedes slammed into him at 43 miles per hour. The impact was total. He felt his body lift off the ground, felt the world spin, felt something in his legs snap like dry twigs. Then he was falling, tumbling through darkness, landing hard on someone's lawn. Cold. Pain. Everything was pain. "Elias!" Clara's scream sounded very far away. "Elias!" He tried to answer, tried to move. His body refused. All he could do was lie there, blood streaming from his head, staring up at a sky that had suddenly become the ceiling of his coffin. The Mercedes stopped. The driver's door opened. A man stumbled out, 40, maybe 45, wearing a suit that cost more than Elias's first car. Dark hair slicked back. A gold watch glinted on his wrist. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. The eyes of someone who had been drinking for hours and had convinced himself he was fine to drive. He was not fine. His name was Landon Voss, real estate developer, son of a former senator, brother of the county district attorney, a man who had never once heard the word no in his privileged life. Landon looked down at Elias sprawled on the grass, at the blood pooling beneath silver hair, at the leg bent at an unnatural angle that made even drunk eyes wince. His first words were not, "I'm sorry." His first words were not, "Are you okay?" "Why the hell were you walking in the road?" Clara pushed herself up from the mailbox. Her arm throbbed where it had struck the metal post. Her heart hammered so hard she could hear it in her ears. "We weren't in the road," she said, voice shaking. "We were on the sidewalk. You drove onto the sidewalk." Don't tell me where I drove. Landon's words slurred together, anger and alcohol fusing into something ugly. I know where I drove. I drove on the road, and you people stepped out in front of me. That's not true. Are you calling me a liar? Landon stepped closer, expensive shoes crushing the grass. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea who you're talking to? Clara knelt beside Elias. His eyes were open but unfocused. Blood matted his silver hair. His chest rose and fell in shallow, ragged breaths. Please, she begged, tears streaming down her face. Please call an ambulance. My husband is hurt. He's really hurt. Your husband is an idiot who can't watch where he's going. Landon pulled out his phone, not to call for help, but to aim the camera at them. Recording. This is going to my lawyer. You people stepped in front of my car. This is your fault. I have documentation. We didn't. We were on the sidewalk. Shut up. Landon's voice hardened. Shut up, or I'll make this so much worse for you. Elias groaned. His hand twitched, reaching for Clara. Clara. I'm here, sweetheart. Clara grabbed his hand and pressed it to her chest. I'm right here. You're going to be okay. My leg. I can't feel my leg. Don't move, just don't move. Help is coming. But help wasn't coming. Landon was still recording, still cursing, still building a narrative that blamed the victims for his crime. Clara looked up at him, this man who had shattered their peaceful Sunday, who had broken her husband's body, who stood there in his expensive suit reeking of alcohol, more concerned with his legal defense than with the life bleeding onto the grass. Something inside her snapped, not her spirit, her fear. You're drunk, she said, her voice suddenly clear and hard. You drove drunk, you hit my husband, and you're standing there blaming us. Watch your mouth, old woman. I will not watch my mouth. Clara stood slowly, 70-year-old knees protesting, heart burning with a fury she hadn't felt in decades. You almost killed him. You almost killed the man I've loved for 50 years. And you want me to watch my mouth? Landon stopped recording. His face twisted into something mean and petty. You want to make this difficult? Fine. I was going to let insurance handle it. But you want to call me drunk? You want to accuse me of things? I'm telling the truth. The truth is what I say it is. Landon grabbed her arm, fingers digging into soft flesh. The truth is what my lawyers decide it is. The truth is what my brother, the district attorney, prosecutes. You think anyone's going to believe you over me? Let go of me. You're going to tell the police exactly what I tell you to tell them. You stepped into the road. It was dark. I couldn't see you. Do you understand? Clara tried to pull away. Let go. Do you understand? He shook her hard. Her head snapped back, grey curls flying. Elias saw it. From the ground, through a haze of pain and blood, he saw a stranger shaking his wife like a rag doll. He tried to rise. His broken legs screamed. He collapsed back onto the grass. Get your hands off her. Shut up, old man. You're lucky I don't sue you for damaging my car. Landon raised his hand, not to shake her again, but to strike. Clara saw the blow coming, saw the gold watch glint in the streetlight, saw the hatred in his glassy eyes. She closed her eyes and prayed. The blow never landed. A hand caught Landon's wrist mid-swing, a strong hand, an immovable hand. That's enough. The voice was calm, controlled, carrying the kind of authority that doesn't need volume to command attention. Landon spun around, face contorted with rage. Who the hell? He stopped. A man stood behind him, mid-30s, short dark brown hair with faint threads of grey at the temples. He wore navy working camouflage, the green and brown digital pattern that marked someone who had served in places most Americans couldn't find on a map. But it wasn't the uniform that made Landon hesitate. It was the eyes, calm, steady, patient, in the way of someone who had faced real danger and learned that panic was a luxury he could not afford. And beside him, standing perfectly still, was a German shepherd, adult, muscular, tan and black coat, slicked slightly with evening mist. Amber eyes locked on Landon with an intensity that made the drunk man's bladder suddenly feel uncertain. The dog didn't growl, didn't bark, didn't move. He simply watched, waiting. Let her go, the man in uniform said. Now. This is none of your business. You made it my business when you raised your hand to a woman. Do you know who I am? I know what you are. The man's grip tightened on Landon's wrist. That's enough. I'm Landon Voss. My brother is the district attorney. My father was Senator Voss. You're Lieutenant Commander Cole Donovan, United States Navy. And if you don't let her go in the next 3 seconds, I'm going to demonstrate exactly what nothing can do. The German shepherd's ears rotated forward. His weight shifted almost imperceptibly onto his front paws. Landon felt it, the sudden primal awareness that he was being measured, that this dog was calculating angles and distances, that one wrong move would turn his expensive suit into a chew toy. He released Clara's arm. Smart choice. Cole didn't release Landon's wrist, not yet. Now step back, away from both of them. You can't. 3 steps, now. Something in Cole's voice cut through Landon's alcoholic haze. Not anger, something worse. The calm certainty of a man stating facts, not making threats. Landon stepped back once, twice, 3 times. Cole released his wrist. Ranger, guard. The German shepherd moved immediately, positioning himself between Landon and the elderly couple, not aggressively, but professionally. A living barrier that made clear any approach would have consequences. Cole knelt beside Elias. Sir, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Cole's voice was gentle. My name is Cole. I'm going to help you. Can you tell me where it hurts? Everywhere. Elias tried to laugh, winced instead. My leg. I think it's broken. Don't try to move it. What about your head? Hit the ground, dizzy, double vision. That's probably a concussion. You're going to be okay, but we need to get you to a hospital. Cole looked at Clara. Mom, are you hurt? Clara was crying, not from pain, from relief, from the overwhelming gratitude of having a stranger appear at the moment she needed one most. I'm okay. A little bruised, but Elias. I'm calling an ambulance right now. Cole pulled out his phone. Ranger, stay. The dog remained motionless, eyes never leaving Landon. Landon had recovered some of his arrogance. Alcohol and entitlement were a powerful combination. You're making a mistake, he said, pulling out his own phone. A big mistake. I'm calling the police. I'm calling my brother. You're going to regret interfering. Call whoever you want. Cole's voice didn't change as he spoke to the 911 dispatcher. Yes, this is an emergency. I'm reporting a hit and run at the corner of Maple and 3rd in Millbrook. 1 victim, elderly male, possible broken leg and head trauma. The driver is still on scene. He appears to be intoxicated. I am not intoxicated, Landon shouted. Yes, the driver is becoming aggressive. I have the situation under control for now. Please send police and EMTs. Cole ended the call. You just lied to the police, Landon said. That's a crime. I told them exactly what I observed. You smell like a distillery. You drove your car onto a sidewalk. You struck a pedestrian, and you were about to hit his wife. Cole stood. If you want to claim you're sober, I'm sure the breathalyzer will clear that up. Landon's face went pale, then red, then pale again. Do you have any idea what I can do to you? You can try to do a lot of things. Most people in your position do. Cole's expression didn't change. But here's what's going to happen. The police are going to arrive. They're going to see an injured elderly man. They're going to smell the alcohol on your breath. They're going to take statements. And then, Mr. Voss, you're going to face something you've probably never faced in your entire life. What's that? Consequences. The word hung in the air. Landon stared at Cole, at this stranger who had appeared from nowhere and was speaking to him as if his money and connections meant nothing. My brother will bury you, Landon said quietly. He'll bury this whole thing. Your brother can try. Cole crouched beside Elias again, checking his pulse. But brothers can only bury so much, especially when there are witnesses. Clara was holding Elias's hand, stroking his silver hair, murmuring words of comfort. But her eyes kept drifting to Cole, to this young man in uniform who had stopped violence with nothing but his presence and his voice. Thank you, she said softly. Thank you for helping us. Don't thank me yet, Mom. The hard part is still coming. Sirens wailed in the distance. Ranger's ears swiveled toward the sound, then back to Landon. And Cole Donovan, who had spent 15 years learning to read situations before they exploded, felt a cold certainty settle in his chest. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. The ambulance arrived first. 2 EMTs jumped out, a man and a woman, both moving with professional efficiency. They assessed Elias quickly. Broken tibia, possible concussion, stable vitals. We need to transport him. The female EMT turned to Clara. Ma'am, you can ride with us. Clara hesitated, looking at Landon, at Cole, at the situation still unfolding. Go with your husband, Cole told her. I'll handle things here. He needs you more than I do. Clara squeezed Cole's hand, a quick, fierce gesture of gratitude, then climbed into the ambulance beside Elias. The doors closed. The vehicle pulled away, sirens wailing. That left Cole, Ranger, and Landon Voss standing on a dark suburban street, waiting for the police. Landon had recovered his phone. His fingers flew across the screen, sending texts, making his arrogance digital. My brother is already on it, he said, not looking at Cole. DA's office is making calls. By the time the cops get here, this will be handled. Handled how? Handled. Landon smiled. The smile of a man who had never lost a game because he had never played by the rules. You should have walked away, sailor. This could have been simple. Old couple trips into traffic. Sad accident. Insurance pays. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody except the man you hit. He's not going to jail. He's going to physical therapy. Landon laughed. Same difference to people like them. What's a few weeks in a hospital when you're 70? They were going to die soon anyway. Cole felt something cold settle in his stomach. Not anger. Something past anger. Recognition. He had met men like Landon Voss before, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in a dozen countries where power meant permission to do whatever you wanted to, whoever couldn't stop you. They all thought they were untouchable. They were usually wrong. A police cruiser pulled up, single vehicle, one officer. Deputy Garrett Hale was 53, 28 years on the force, 4 years from a pension he desperately needed. He was also, as Cole would soon learn, a man whose mortgage payments had been mysteriously reduced after he helped Landon Voss avoid a DUI 3 years earlier. Hale stepped out slowly. He looked at the scene. Damaged Mercedes, broken glass on the sidewalk, Landon Voss standing with arms crossed, and a Navy officer with a German shepherd. His eyes lingered on Landon. Something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, an unspoken agreement. Mr. Voss, Hale said, carefully neutral. Are you all right? I'm fine. These pedestrians stepped into traffic. I couldn't stop in time. I see. Hale pulled out a notepad. And you are? This last was directed at Cole. Lieutenant Commander Cole Donovan, United States Navy. I witnessed the accident. Hale's pen stopped moving. Witnessed. I was driving past when I saw the Mercedes jump the curb. It struck the elderly man on the sidewalk. Not in the street, on the sidewalk. That's not what Mr. Voss says. Mr. Voss is intoxicated. I could smell the alcohol from 10 feet away. That's a lie, Landon stepped forward. I had 1 drink at dinner. I'm not talking to you, Mr. Voss. I'm talking to the deputy. Cole kept his voice level. Deputy Hale, are you planning to administer a breathalyzer test? Hale's jaw tightened. I'll decide what tests are appropriate. The driver of a vehicle involved in a collision with injuries is legally required to submit to sobriety testing in this state. I'm sure you know that. I know my job, Commander. Then do it. The silence that followed was heavy. Ranger sat perfectly still beside Cole, but his eyes tracked Hale's every movement. The dog had been trained to read human body language, to detect lies, to sense aggression, to know when a situation was about to turn dangerous. Right now, Ranger was very, very alert. Hale made a decision, the wrong decision. Commander Donovan, I'm going to need you to step back from the scene, take your dog and leave. I'm a witness to a crime. You're a civilian interfering with a police investigation. I'm asking you nicely to leave. And if I don't? Then I'll have to arrest you for obstruction. Landon smiled, the smug, satisfied smile of a man who knew he had purchased the right outcome. Cole didn't smile. He looked at Hale, really looked. The way he looked at people when he was deciding if they were threats or assets. What he saw was a man drowning in debt, in compromise, in small surrenders that had become a way of life. Deputy Hale, Cole said quietly. I'm going to ask you one time. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm sure I want you gone. Because what you're doing right now, dismissing evidence, refusing to test a clearly intoxicated driver, threatening a witness, that's not going to disappear. I have a very good memory, and I have friends who ask questions professionally. Hale's face hardened. Is that a threat? It's a fact. I've spent 15 years serving this country. I've watched people die for the values we claim to represent. I'm not going to stand here and watch those values get sold for whatever Landon Voss is paying you. You son of a... Landon's voice cut through, sharp with warning. Not here. Not with him. Just get him away from the scene and we'll handle this properly. Hale took a breath, composed himself. Commander Donovan, I'm not going to ask again. Leave now or I'll place you under arrest. Cole looked at the deputy, at Landon, at the Mercedes still sitting half on the sidewalk. Then he looked at Ranger. The dog met his eyes. 6 years of partnership had taught them to communicate without words. Ranger's message was clear. Your call. But I'm ready. Cole made a decision. Fine. He raised his hand slightly. I'll leave. But I want you to know something, Deputy. What? Everything you do tonight is going to come back. Every choice you make, every lie you tell, every crime you cover up. It might take days, weeks, months, but it's going to come back. And when it does, I'll be there. That sounds like a threat. It's a promise. Cole opened his truck door. Ranger jumped in. God doesn't ignore injustice, Deputy. Neither do I. He drove away. In his rearview mirror, he watched Hale and Landon shake hands. Watched them laugh. Watched them begin constructing a story that would blame Elias and Clara Thorne for their own destruction. Cole's hands tightened on the steering wheel. This wasn't over. He was going to make sure of it. The hospital was cold and bright and smelled like disinfectant and fear. Cole found Clara in the emergency room waiting area, sitting alone on a plastic chair, hands folded in her lap, eyes red from crying. Mrs. Thorne? She looked up. Relief flooded her face. You came. I said I would. Cole sat beside her. Ranger settled at his feet. His presence immediately softened the harsh institutional atmosphere. How is your husband? In surgery. His leg. They had to put pins in it. They're watching his head for bleeding. Clara's voice cracked. He's 70 years old. He was just walking me home from church. He's going to be okay. You don't know that. No, Cole admitted. I don't. But I know he's alive. I know you're here. And I know that tomorrow we're going to make sure the man who did this faces justice. Clara laughed bitterly. Justice? That man's brother is the district attorney. The police officer barely looked at us. They're going to say it was our fault. They're going to try. And what can we do? We're nobody. We're 70 years old. We don't have money. We don't have connections. You have me. Clara stopped, looked at him. This stranger in a navy uniform with calm eyes, steady dog, and absolute certainty. Why? She asked. Why do you care? You don't know us. Cole was quiet for a moment. He thought about his mother dying of cancer in the hospice 3 miles away. He thought about the values she had raised him with. He thought about the men he had served with who had died believing in something larger than themselves. My mother used to say that God puts us where we're needed, he said finally. I was driving to see her when I saw your husband get hit. I could have kept driving. I could have called 911 and let someone else handle it. But I was there, and that means something. At least it does to me. Clara reached out and took his hand. Her skin was soft, papery with age, but her grip was surprisingly strong. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't... Don't think about that. Think about Elias. Think about him waking up and seeing your face. Cole squeezed her hand gently. That's all that matters right now. Ranger shifted, resting his head on Clara's knee. She looked down at the dog, surprised. He likes you, Cole said. I've never had a dog. He knows when people need comfort. It's part of his training, but also... Cole smiled slightly. He's a good judge of character. Clara stroked Ranger's head. For the first time since the accident, something like peace crossed her face. What's his name? Ranger. Ranger? She said it softly like a prayer. He's beautiful. He's also extremely well trained. If anyone from the Voss family shows up here tonight, he'll let us know. Clara's hands stilled. You think they'd come here? I think Landon Voss is worried about what Elias might say when he wakes up, and worried people do stupid things. What do we do? We wait, we watch, and tomorrow, Cole leaned back in the chair. Tomorrow, we start fighting back. Clara looked at him, at Ranger, at the harsh hospital lights that suddenly seemed less harsh. I don't know how to fight people like that, she admitted. You don't have to, that's what I'm for. Elias woke at 3 a.m. Clara was there, holding his hand just as she had for 50 years of nights. Good and bad. Clara, I'm here, sweetheart. What happened? A car hit you, you're in the hospital. Elias's eyes slowly focused. He saw the IV in his arm, the monitors beeping steadily, the cast encasing his leg. My leg? Broken, but the doctors fixed it. You're going to be okay. And you? Elias tried to lift his hand to touch her face. Are you hurt? A few bruises, nothing serious. The man, the one who... Elias's face darkened with memory. He grabbed you. He was going to hit you. Someone stopped him. Who? Clara glanced toward the door. Cole was standing there, Ranger at his heel. He did. Elias looked at Cole, at the uniform, at the dog, at the quiet strength that seemed to fill the doorway. You're the one, Elias said. You stopped him. Cole nodded. Thank you. Elias's voice cracked. My wife. If anything had happened to her... Nothing happened. She's safe. But that man, Voss, he's connected. His family runs this town. The police. The police made a mistake tonight. They're going to regret it. Cole stepped into the room. Mr. Thorne, I know you're in pain. I know you're scared. But I need you to tell me exactly what happened. Every detail. Can you do that? Elias looked at Clara. She nodded. Yes, Elias said, I can do that. And as the night stretched toward dawn, Elias Thorne told his story. The walk from church, the headlights appearing from nowhere, the impact, the drunk man's rage, the police officer who looked at them like they were the criminals. Cole listened, made notes, asked questions. When Elias finished, Cole stood. Thank you, Mr. Thorne. That's going to help. Help with what? With what comes next. Cole moved toward the door. Ranger followed. Commander Donovan, Elias called out. Cole paused. That man Voss. His family has destroyed people before. People who tried to stand up to them. Are you sure you want to do this? Cole looked at the elderly man in the hospital bed, at the wife who had stood her ground against violence, at the 48 years of love and faith and quiet courage they represented. I've faced worse than the Voss family, Cole said, and I'm still here. He left, but his words stayed behind, settling over Elias and Clara like a blanket. For the first time since the headlights appeared from nowhere, they felt something other than fear. They felt hope. The morning brought bad news wrapped in official language. Cole was at his mother's bedside when his phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. This is Clara Thorne. The police just called. They're closing the case. They say it was our fault. Cole looked at his mother, Beatrice Donovan, 67, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She was sleeping, her breath shallow but steady. The hospice nurses said she might have weeks, maybe days. He had come home to say goodbye. Instead, he found himself in the middle of something he couldn't walk away from. I have to go, Mom, he whispered, kissing her forehead. But I'll be back. Ranger was waiting in the truck. The German shepherd read Cole's expression immediately, ears forward, body alert, ready for whatever came next. We've got work to do, boy. They drove to the hospital. Clara was in Elias's room when Cole arrived. She looked like she hadn't slept. Elias looked worse, face grey, eyes hollow, monitors beeping a rhythm of fragile survival. Tell me exactly what the police said, Cole said without preamble. Clara handed him a document. Her hands trembled. They came this morning, a detective. He said they completed their investigation. Her voice cracked. He said Elias and I were crossing against the light. He said we were responsible for our own injuries. He said no charges would be filed against Mr. Voss. Cole read the report, 3 pages of carefully constructed lies. Investigation determined that the pedestrians entered the roadway without looking. Driver attempted to brake, but was unable to avoid collision. No evidence of intoxication at the scene. Case closed. This is garbage. We know it's garbage, Clara said. But what can we do? Cole looked at Elias. The old man was watching him, hope and despair battling in his eyes. Mr. Thorne, can you tell me again exactly where you were when the car hit you? On the sidewalk. Elias's voice was weak but certain. We were on the sidewalk. We've walked that route 1,000 times. We never cross until we reach the light on 4th Street. And where did the car come from? Behind us. We heard the engine, and then… Elias closed his eyes. I barely had time to push Clara out of the way. You pushed her? I didn't think. I knew it was going to hit one of us. I chose me. Clara let out a small sob. She reached for Elias's hand. You saved my life, she whispered. You stupid, wonderful man. You saved my life. I'd do it again, 1,000 times. Cole felt something tighten in his chest. 50 years of marriage, 70 years of life. And Elias Thorne's first instinct had been to protect his wife, even if it killed him. That kind of love was worth fighting for. There's a house on the corner of Maple and 3rd, Cole said. I saw it when I stopped. Security camera on the porch. If that camera was pointing toward the street, it might have caught everything. Clara's eyes widened. Do you think… I think it's worth finding out. Cole headed for the door. Ranger fell into step beside him. Commander Donovan, Elias called out. Cole paused. Why are you doing this? You don't know us. You have your own troubles. Why are you risking… Because it's right. Cole met the old man's eyes. That's reason enough. He left before Elias could respond. The house on Maple Street belonged to Victor Kane, 75, retired Marine, Vietnam veteran, a man who had lost his son in Iraq and never quite recovered from the loss. Cole knocked on the door. Ranger sat perfectly still beside him. The door opened to reveal a tall, weathered man with white hair and suspicious eyes. Whatever you're selling, I don't want it. I'm not selling anything, sir. I'm Lieutenant Commander Cole Donovan, Navy SEAL. I need to ask you about your security camera. Victor's eyes dropped to Ranger, then back to Cole. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, respect, the unspoken bond between men who had served. You're the one who stopped that drunk from beating on those old folks. You saw that. Heard about it. Whole neighborhood's talking. Victor stepped aside. Come in. The house was modest but immaculate. The home of a man who valued discipline over comfort. Pictures lined the walls. A young Victor in Vietnam, his wedding day. His son in desert camouflage. That's Marcus, Victor said, noticing Cole's gaze. Fallujah, 2007. IED got his convoy. I'm sorry. Don't be. He died doing what he believed in. Same as you're doing now, I expect. Victor led Cole to a computer in the corner of the living room. My daughter installed this system after Marcus died, worried about me being alone. He pulled up the footage. Night of the accident, Sunday around 8:30 p.m. The screen filled with grainy video of the street outside. And there it was, the Mercedes jumping the curb. Elias and Clara clearly on the sidewalk, holding hands, the impact. Elias flying through the air. Landon Voss stumbling out, arrogance radiating even in silent video. My God, Victor whispered. That bastard drove right onto the sidewalk. Can you see his face clearly? Clear enough. And the license plate. Right there. Black Mercedes, Virginia plate. That's Landon Voss's car. I've seen it around town for years. I need a copy of this footage. You can have the original. Victor was already reaching for a flash drive. And I'll testify. In court, on camera, wherever you need me. You understand what you're getting into. The Vosses have a lot of influence in this town. Victor's face hardened. Something ancient and fierce flickered in his eyes. My son died fighting for this country. He died believing in justice. You think I'm going to let some rich drunk and his corrupt brother spit on that? Victor handed Cole the flash drive. Do what you need to do. I've got your back. Cole felt the weight of the drive in his hand. Such a small thing. Such massive consequences. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Just nail that son of a bitch. Cole made copies of the footage before he did anything else. 3 copies. 1 in a secure cloud server, 1 on a drive he kept with him, 1 mailed to a friend in Virginia Beach with instructions to release it if anything happened to him. Then he made a phone call. Agent Mara Ellis answered on the second ring. "Cole Donovan, I haven't heard that voice in 3 years." Her tone was warm but cautious. "What's wrong?" "What makes you think something's wrong?" "You're calling me. You never call unless something's wrong." Cole smiled despite himself. Mara Ellis was FBI, Financial Crimes Division. They had worked together on a joint operation in Colombia, breaking up a drug money laundering network. She was brilliant, tenacious, and absolutely incorruptible. "I need a favor." "Of course you do. I need you to look into someone. Landon Voss, real estate developer in Millbrook, Virginia. His brother is the county DA. "What kind of trouble?" "Hit and run, assault, police cover-up, and I suspect there's more." Mara was quiet for a moment. Cole could hear her typing. "Landon Voss, Voss Development Corporation. Interesting." More typing. "Interesting." "What?" "His company has been flagged before. Suspected money laundering. We couldn't make it stick. The investigation kept getting shut down." "Shut down by whom, officially?" "Budget constraints." "Unofficially?" Mara's voice dropped. "Someone with a lot of pull wanted it buried. His brother is connected to people higher than county-level politics." Mara paused. "Cole, what did you walk into?" "An elderly couple got hit by a drunk driver. The driver is connected. The cops are covering for him. I have video evidence that proves everything." "Then why are you calling me instead of releasing it?" "Because I think this is bigger than a hit and run. I think the Vosses have been getting away with things for years, and I think this might be the thread that unravels all of it." Mara was silent for a long moment. "Send me what you have. I'll see what I can find." "Thank you, Mara." "Don't thank me yet. If this goes where I think it might, you're going to need more than one friend in a federal agency." She hung up. Cole looked at Ranger. The dog was watching him, waiting. "This is going to get ugly, boy." Ranger's tail wagged once. He didn't seem worried. The first sign of retaliation came the next morning. Cole arrived at the hospice to find his mother's room empty. Not empty as in she was getting treatment, empty as in cleared out, bed stripped, personal items boxed, his mother nowhere to be found. His blood ran cold. "Excuse me." He grabbed a passing nurse. "Beatrice Donovan, room 214, where is she?" The nurse looked uncomfortable. "She was transferred last night." "Transferred where?" "Another facility. I don't have the details." "I'm her son. I'm listed as her emergency contact. No one called me." "Sir, I'm sorry, but these decisions are made by administration. Get me administration, now." 15 minutes later, Cole was standing in the hospice director's office, trying very hard not to put his fist through the wall. "The transfer was for insurance reasons," the director said smoothly. He was a thin man with thin lips and thin excuses. "Your mother's policy changed coverage tiers. We're no longer an approved facility." "That's a lie. I manage my mother's insurance. The policy hasn't changed. The coverage hasn't changed. Someone told you to move her." The director's composure cracked slightly. "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts." Cole leaned forward. "Where is my mother?" "Sunridge Care Center. It's about 2 hours away." 2 hours? "I understand it's inconvenient, but—" "Inconvenient? My mother is dying. She has weeks left, maybe days, and you moved her 2 hours away so I can't be with her." The director started to respond. "Don't." Cole's voice dropped to the tone he used when questioning hostile prisoners. "Don't try to justify it. Don't try to explain. Just know this. I know why you did it, and I know who told you to do it." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The Vosses." Cole watched the man flinch. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. And when this is over, when they're facing charges and their empire is burning, I'm going to remember that you helped them try to hurt a dying woman." He left before he did something he'd regret. Ranger was waiting in the truck. The dog sensed something wrong immediately, pressing against Cole's leg as he slid behind the wheel. "They went after my mother," Cole said quietly. "They moved her to keep me away." Ranger whined softly. "They think that's going to stop me." Cole started the engine. They're wrong. He drove 2 hours to Sunridge Care Centre. His mother was there, alive, confused, frightened. She didn't understand why she'd been moved. She didn't understand why Cole looked so angry. "What's happening?" she asked, voice thin and fragile. "Why am I here?" "It's going to be okay, Mom." Cole held her hand. "I'm going to fix this." "You look tired, sweetheart. Are you taking care of yourself?" "I'm fine." "You always say you're fine." Beatrice's eyes, still sharp despite the cancer eating her from the inside, studied his face. "What are you involved in?" "Nothing I can't handle, Mom." She squeezed his hand with surprising strength. "I know you. I raised you. I know when you're carrying something heavy." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he told her everything. The elderly couple, the drunk driver, the police cover-up, the video evidence, the powerful family trying to bury the truth. When he finished, Beatrice was crying. That poor couple. After all those years of marriage to have something like that happen. They're fighters, both of them, like you. Beatrice touched his face. "Always running toward trouble. Ever since you were a little boy." "Someone has to." "Yes, but it doesn't always have to be you." "Mom, I know. I know you know. You can't help it. It's who you are." She smiled through her tears. "Just promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll come back." "I always come back." "That's what your father said before." Her voice trailed off. The old wound that had never fully healed. Cole's father had been Navy too. Had died in a training accident when Cole was 12. "I'm not Dad," Cole said softly. "No, you're not." Beatrice's eyes closed. "But you're still my son, and I'm still afraid for you." Cole stayed until she fell asleep. Then he drove back to Millbrook, hands tight on the wheel, mind racing through possibilities. The Vosses wanted a war. They were going to get one. Cole's truck was vandalized that night. He returned to his motel to find the tires slashed, windows smashed, a note on the windshield. "Leave town or things get worse." Ranger growled at the damage, hackles rising. Cole read the note twice, then crumpled it and threw it away. "You think that scares me?" he said aloud, knowing there might be ears nearby. "I've been shot at in 6 countries. I've watched friends die in my arms. You think some broken glass is going to make me run?" He called a tow truck, got the tires replaced, had the windows fixed. Then he went to see Elias and Clara. "They're escalating," he told them. "They moved my mother. They vandalized my truck. They're trying to pressure me into leaving." Clara's face went pale. "Maybe you should. Maybe this isn't worth—" "They went after my mother." Cole's voice was quiet, but carried an edge that made Ranger's ears flatten. "A dying woman who never hurt anyone. They moved her 2 hours away so I couldn't be with her. That's monstrous." "That's the Voss family." Cole sat down heavily. "They think they can do whatever they want to, whoever they want. They've been doing it for years, decades probably. So what do? We keep going. I have the video evidence. I have a contact in the FBI who's digging into their finances. And I have witnesses who are willing to testify." "Who?" "Victor Kane, the Marine who lives on the corner. He saw everything on his security camera. He's willing to go public." Elias struggled to sit up straighter. His leg was in a cast, ribs wrapped, but something fierce burned in his eyes. "What about us?" "What about you? We're witnesses too. We lived it." Elias looked at Clara. "Clara, if there's a chance to stop these people, to make sure they can't hurt anyone else, we have to take it." "Elias, you're 70 years old with a broken leg." "I'm 70 years old with a broken leg, and 50 years of marriage, and a lifetime of believing that truth matters." Elias's voice grew stronger with each word. "If I don't stand up now, what was any of it for?" Clara stared at her husband, at the silver-haired man she had loved since she was 22, at the quiet courage that had always been there hidden beneath the gentle exterior. "You impossible man," she whispered. "You wonderful impossible man. Is that a yes?" Clara took his hand, looked at Cole. "It's a yes." Cole's phone rang at midnight. "Mara Ellis." "I found something," she said without preamble. "Something big." "Tell me." Landon Voss's real estate company has been laundering money for a decade, drug money mostly, some offshore accounts connected to organized crime. His brother has been suppressing investigations from the DA's office, Can you prove it with what I have now? Probably not. It's all circumstantial. Mara paused. But if we could get someone to turn, someone inside the organization who knows where the bodies are buried, we could bring down the whole thing. Who would turn against the Vosses? That's the question. Mara's voice dropped. But I'll tell you who might. Deputy Garrett Hale, the cop who covered up the hit and run. The same. He's been on the Voss payroll for years, but it looks like he's getting nervous. His payments have stopped. His pension is being questioned. Someone's hanging him out to dry. They're going to make him the fall guy. Exactly. If you could get to him first, show him the evidence, make him understand he's being sacrificed, he might flip. That's a big risk. So is everything you're doing. Mara sighed. Cole, I have to ask, why are you so invested in this? You came home to see your mother. This isn't your fight. Cole thought about Elias and Clara, about their quiet Sunday walk destroyed by arrogance and alcohol, about his mother moved away from him in the final weeks of her life. It became my fight the moment I saw that man raise his hand to an old woman. That's not a strategy. That's a conviction. Sometimes conviction is the only strategy that matters. Mara was quiet for a long moment. Be careful, Cole. The Vosses play for keeps. So do I. He hung up. Ranger was watching him, amber eyes glowing in the darkness. Tomorrow, Cole said, we go hunting. The dog's tail wagged. He understood. Deputy Garrett Hale lived in a modest house on the outskirts of town. Cole arrived at dawn, Ranger at his side. He parked across the street and waited. At 6:47 a.m., Hale emerged in uniform, coffee in hand, heading for his patrol car. Cole stepped out of the truck. Deputy Hale. Hale spun around, hand moving to his weapon. Then he recognized Cole, and his face hardened. I told you to leave town. And I told you that what you did was going to come back. Cole walked forward slowly. Ranger moved with him. It's coming back now. You're trespassing. I'm standing on a public street. Cole stopped 10 feet away. I have evidence. Video evidence. It shows the Voss car jumping the curb. Shows the impact. Shows you arriving and refusing to administer a breathalyzer. It also shows you shaking Landon Voss's hand after you told me to leave. That doesn't mean anything. It means conspiracy, cover-up, corruption of your oath. Cole held up the flash drive. But that's not why I'm here. Then why? Because I know what's coming for you. The Vosses are cutting you loose. They're going to blame everything on you. The cover-up, the missing evidence, all of it. You're going to be the sacrifice that lets them walk free. Hale's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you haven't received a payment from them in 3 weeks. I know your pension review was moved up without explanation. I know they're already building a narrative that makes you the villain. How do you... I have friends who dig into things. They've been digging into the Vosses for a while now. Cole stepped closer. Here's the question, Deputy. Do you want to go down alone or do you want to help bring them down with you? Hale stared at him. Fear and calculation warred in his eyes. You're asking me to betray... I'm asking you to tell the truth. I'm asking you to remember why you became a cop. I'm asking you to think about what happens to you when the Vosses are done using you. Cole's voice softened. You have a family, don't you? Kids? Grandkids? Don't bring my family into this. The Vosses already have. The minute you started covering for them, you brought your family into this. Cole held out a business card. This is an FBI contact. Financial crimes. They're building a case. They need witnesses. And if you talk to them, maybe you get a deal. Maybe you keep your pension. Maybe you don't spend the next 10 years in federal prison. Hale took the card. His hand was shaking. I need to think about this. Don't think too long. The Vosses are already moving. Cole turned to leave. Remember who threw you away first, Deputy. It wasn't me. He walked back to his truck. Ranger jumped in. As they drove away, Cole watched Hale in the rearview mirror, a man standing alone on his lawn, holding a business card that could change everything. Now all he could do was wait and pray that conscience was stronger than fear. Deputy Garrett Hale called at 3 a.m. Cole was at his mother's bedside, having driven 2 hours each way for the 3rd time that week, when his phone lit up with an unknown number. I'm in, Hale said, without preamble. His voice was raw with sleeplessness and fear. They're going to destroy me. I saw the paperwork today. They're setting me up for everything. What kind of paperwork? Internal affairs investigation launched by the DA's office. They're claiming I falsified reports, accepted bribes, covered up evidence. Hale laughed bitterly. All true, of course, but they're the ones who told me to do it, and now they're cutting me loose like I was nothing, like I didn't risk my career for them for 4 years. Hale's voice cracked. I have grandchildren, Donovan. I have a pension that's supposed to pay for their college. And these people are going to take everything because I know too much. Cole looked at his mother, sleeping peacefully, despite the machines keeping her alive. Where are you now? My car, outside the Voss development building. I was going to confront Landon, but... Don't do anything stupid. Too late for that. I've been doing stupid things for 4 years. Listen to me carefully. Cole's voice shifted into the calm, commanding tone he used when lives were on the line. You need to get somewhere safe. Somewhere the Vosses can't find you. Can you do that? I don't know. Think, Hale. You've been a cop for 30 years. Where do criminals hide when they're afraid? A long pause. My sister's place. She lives in West Virginia, off-grid mostly. Go there tonight. Don't tell anyone where you're going. And call the FBI contact I gave you from a burner phone. You really think they can protect me? I think they're your only chance. Cole paused. But Hale, you need to give them everything. Every cover-up, every payment, every conversation. Hold nothing back. If I do that, I go to prison. If you don't do that, you go to a grave. The Vosses don't leave loose ends. Silence on the line. I never wanted any of this. I was just trying to pay my bills. My wife's medical treatments. The insurance wouldn't cover everything. And then Landon offered. I don't need your confession, Deputy. Save it for the FBI. Cole softened his voice. But I understand. Good people make bad choices when they're desperate. What matters is what you do next. What if it's not enough? Then at least you'll know you tried. Hale hung up. Cole sat in the quiet hospice room, listening to his mother breathe. Ranger lay at his feet, alert even in rest. It's happening, boy, Cole murmured. The walls are starting to crack. Ranger's tail thumped once against the floor. The next 72 hours were chaos. Hale vanished exactly as Cole had instructed. His disappearance sent shockwaves through the Millbrook Police Department. Suddenly, the man they had been preparing to sacrifice was gone, along with whatever evidence he had been collecting. Landon Voss's reaction was immediate and unhinged. Find him, he screamed at his brother Trevor during a call that Mara's FBI contacts had been monitoring. Find him and fix this. I'm trying, Landon. He's not at his house. His phone is off. His car. I don't care about his car. I care about what he knows. He doesn't know everything. He knows enough. Enough to connect us to the money. Enough to prove we've been buying cops for years. Landon's voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. If he talks, we lose everything. Then maybe we should... Don't say it on the phone. A pause. Come to my office and bring the other files. Mara called Cole an hour later. They're panicking, she said, which means they're going to do something stupid. What kind of stupid? The kind that involves making witnesses disappear. Mara's voice was grim. Cole, you need to watch your back. The Thornes too. I've been watching. Watch harder. These people have resources, private security, off-the-books personnel who handle problems. She hesitated. I'm sending backup. 2 agents I trust. They'll be in Millbrook by tonight. Thank you. Don't thank me. This is my job. Mara paused. But Cole, be careful. You've already made yourself a target. If they decide you're more trouble than you're worth, then they'll learn what a real threat looks like. He hung up and called Clara. I need you and Elias to pack a bag. What? Why? Things are escalating. The man who covered up the accident has flipped. The Vosses are getting desperate. Clara's voice trembled. Desperate how? Desperate enough to do something we can't predict. I want you somewhere safe until this is over. Elias can barely walk. I know, but he can sit in a car and he can stay hidden. Can you do that for me? A long pause. Where would we go? Victor Kane has a cabin in the mountains. He offered it to me last week. No one knows about it except him. The Marine? The one with the security camera? The same. He's a good man. He'll watch over you. Clara was crying now. Cole could hear it in her breath. I'm 70 years old, she said. I thought our running days were over. I thought we could just... I know, and I'm sorry, but I need you alive to testify. I need Elias alive to tell his story. And right now, alive means hidden. How long? Days, maybe a week. The FBI is moving. When they do, the Vosses won't be able to hurt anyone. And if they move first? They won't. I won't let them. Clara took a shaky breath. You're a good man, Commander Donovan. Whatever happens, I want you to know that you're a good man. Get Elias ready. I'll be there in an hour. Cole arrived at the hospital to find Elias dressed and sitting in a wheelchair, broken leg extended in front of him, face set with grim determination. I'm not running, Elias said as soon as Cole entered. I've never run from anything in my life. You're not running. You're repositioning. Don't use military talk on me. I'm a high school teacher. I know what words mean. Then you know that sometimes the smartest move is to step back and let the enemy expose themselves. Cole crouched beside the wheelchair. Mr. Thorne, these people tried to kill you. They covered up what they did, and now they're cornered, which makes them more dangerous than ever. So I should hide while you fight my battle. I should let you go into a war zone alone. Cole shook his head. You're 70 years old with a broken leg. You're brave, but you're not equipped for this. Elias grabbed Cole's arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. I didn't survive that car so I could watch from the sidelines. I survived because God wanted me to be part of this, to bear witness, to stand up. You will stand up, in court, in front of cameras, telling the world exactly what Landon Voss did. Cole met his eyes. But you can only do that if you're alive. Do you understand? Elias held his gaze for a long moment. Then his shoulders sagged. I hate this. I know. I hate being old and weak. You're not weak. Cole stood. You pushed your wife out of the path of a speeding car. You took the hit yourself. That's not weakness. That's the opposite of weakness. Elias wiped his eyes. You're good at this, making people feel better about their own helplessness. I'm good at recognizing strength in unexpected places. Cole gripped the wheelchair handles. Now let's get you to safety. Ranger walked beside them, his presence calming the nurses and patients they passed. The German shepherd seemed to understand the gravity of what was happening, amber eyes alert, body language protective. Clara was waiting at the hospital entrance, 2 small bags at her feet. She looked fragile in the morning light, but her jaw was set. I'm not happy about this, she said. You don't have to be happy, you just have to be safe. Victor Kane's truck was idling at the curb. The old Marine stepped out when he saw them approach. Everything's ready at the cabin, Victor said. Supplies for a week, satellite phone in case of emergency, and this, he handed Cole a shotgun, for anything that comes up unexpected. I can't shoot, Elias said. I can, Clara replied, taking the weapon. Daddy taught me when I was 12. Everyone stared at her. What? A woman should know how to protect herself. Victor laughed, the first genuine laugh Cole had heard from him. I like her. Just get them safe, Cole said, and watch the roads. Anyone follows you. Son, I ran convoys through the Mekong Delta. I think I can handle a back road in Virginia. Cole helped Elias into the truck, then turned to Clara. I'll call when it's over, and if I don't call, then Victor knows what to do. The evidence is already with the FBI. Even if something happens to me, the truth comes out. Clara reached up and touched his face. Her hand was soft, trembling. Come back, Commander, for your mother, for all the good you still have to do. I always come back. The truck pulled away. Cole watched until it disappeared around the corner. Then he turned to Ranger. Now we go hunting. The Voss Development Building was a temple to excess. 12 stories of glass and steel in a town that didn't need 12 stories of anything. Cole didn't go through the front door. He had spent 2 days studying the building, its security systems, its routines. He knew Landon Voss worked late on Thursdays, usually alone. He knew the cleaning crew left at 8. He knew the security guard took a smoke break at 9:15. At 9:20, Cole was in the elevator. Ranger stood beside him, perfectly still, perfectly calm. The dog had done infiltrations before in buildings far more dangerous than this one. The elevator opened on the top floor. Landon Voss's office was at the end of the hall, lights spilling through the gap beneath the door. Cole could hear voices. Landon and someone else, a woman. He moved silently down the corridor. Ranger's paws made no sound on the carpet. At the door, Cole paused, listened. "Can't just disappear," the woman was saying. "The FBI is already asking questions." "The FBI asks questions about everything. It doesn't mean they have anything. They have Hale. Hale is a coward who's running scared. His testimony is worthless without documentation." "And if he has documentation?" Silence. "Then we handle it the way we've always handled problems." "Landon, I'm your lawyer. I can't be part of—" "You've been part of this for 10 years, Brooke. Don't pretend you have a conscience now." Cole had heard enough. He pushed the door open. Landon Voss spun around, face going white. The woman beside him, 50s, expensive suit, exactly what a corrupt lawyer looked like, dropped her briefcase. "Who the hell? How did you get in here?" Cole didn't answer. He walked into the office, Ranger at his heel. "Security!" Landon shouted. "Security!" "Your security guard is having a cigarette. He'll be another few minutes." Cole stopped 10 feet from Landon. "We need to talk. I'm calling the police." "Please do. Make sure to mention that you're under federal investigation for money laundering, that you ran over an elderly man while drunk, and that you've been bribing local officials for years." Cole tilted his head. "I'm sure that will go well." Landon's hand froze over his phone. "What do you want?" "The truth. On record. A confession that you hit Elias Thorne with your car while intoxicated, that you attempted to assault his wife, that you covered it up with help from local police." "You're insane." "Probably, but I'm also very patient." Cole reached into his jacket and pulled out a tablet. "This is the security footage from the night of the accident. It shows everything. Your car jumping the curb, the impact, you stumbling out drunk, you grabbing Clara Thorne and raising your hand to hit her." Landon's face cycled through emotions: shock, fear, rage. "That footage is authentic. Verified by 3 independent experts. Already in the hands of the FBI, the State Attorney General, and 2 major news networks who are very interested in running a story about a wealthy family who thinks they're above the law." The lawyer, Brooke, spoke up. "Mr. Voss, I advise you not to say anything." "Shut up." Landon stared at Cole. "What do you really want? Money?" "Everyone wants money." "I want justice." "Justice?" Landon laughed. "Do you know what justice is? Justice is what people with power decide it is. Justice is for people who can afford lawyers and judges and outcomes. Justice has never existed for people like the Thornes, old, poor, invisible." "Then maybe it's time to change that." "You can't change anything. You're one man with a dog." Cole smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. "I'm one man who has spent 15 years learning how to take down enemies much bigger than you. I'm one man who has friends in federal agencies, in media outlets, in places you can't buy or threaten. And I'm one man who has absolutely nothing left to lose. Everyone has something to lose." "My mother is dying, slowly, painfully. You already moved her away from me. I know that was you. You vandalized my truck, threatened my safety, tried to intimidate me at every turn." Cole stepped closer. "What else can you take? My life? Better men than you have tried." Landon's eyes flickered to Ranger. The dog hadn't moved, but his attention was absolute. "Call off your dog." "Why? He's not doing anything. He's just watching." Cole paused. "He's very good at watching, trained to detect lies, to read body language, to know when someone is about to make a very bad decision." "I want you out of my building." "I want you to confess. Seems like neither of us is getting what we want tonight." Cole set the tablet on Landon's desk. "But here's the difference between us, Mr. Voss. You need to win this to keep everything. I only need to not lose." "What does that mean?" "It means the evidence is already out there. It means the FBI is already building a case. It means your brother's career is already over, whether he knows it or not." Cole headed for the door. "All I have to do is stay alive long enough to watch it happen." "And if you don't stay alive?" Cole paused at the threshold, looked back. Then you better pray you get to me before I get to you. Because if anything happens to me, everything I have goes public. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence I've collected. He smiled coldly. Including the recordings I made tonight. Landon's face went grey. You're bluffing! Am I? Cole pulled out his phone, showed the screen, a recording app running for the past 15 minutes. Every word, Mr. Voss, every threat, every admission, all of it now backed up to 3 secure servers. Brooke put her head in her hands. We're finished, she murmured. We're completely finished. Cole left without another word. Ranger followed, tail held high, the posture of a dog who knew they had just won a battle. The Vosses made their move 2 nights later. Cole was driving to the hospice when he noticed the headlights following him. 2 cars keeping perfect distance. We've got company, Ranger. The dog raised his head, instantly alert. Cole didn't speed up, didn't try to lose them. He pulled into a rest stop, public, well lit, security cameras covering every angle. The 2 cars pulled in behind him. 4 men got out, private security types, black clothing, hard faces, military bearing, not cops, not amateurs. The kind of men who made problems disappear. Cole stepped out of the truck, leaving the door open. Ranger jumped down beside him. Can I help you, gentlemen? The lead man, 30s, buzz cut, neck tattoos that screamed prison time, stepped forward. Commander Donovan, Mr. Voss would like to have a conversation. We already had a conversation. It didn't go well for him. This is a different kind of conversation. The kind that happens in a dark place where no one can hear. The man smiled, something like that. Cole calculated distances. 4 men spread in a loose semicircle. All bigger than him, all armed. He could see the bulges under their jackets. But they didn't know. Ranger, Cole said conversationally, here's the problem. I'm recording this entire encounter on a device that streams directly to an FBI server. You so much as touch me, and you'll have federal agents crawling all over you before sunrise. The man hesitated, glanced at his companions. And if you're thinking about taking my phone, that won't help. The device is sewn into my jacket, has its own battery, its own signal. This wasn't entirely true, but they didn't know that. Plus there's Ranger. Your dog? My partner. Cole's voice hardened. 75 pounds of muscle, trained to protect his handler against multiple attackers. You might take me down, but at least one of you is going to the hospital first, maybe 2. And then you'll have assault charges on top of whatever Mr. Voss is paying you. The men exchanged glances. The calculation was visible on their faces. Risk versus reward, injury versus payment. Tell your boss something for me, Cole said. Tell him it's over. The FBI has everything. Hale is cooperating. The news story breaks tomorrow morning. He smiled. By this time next week, Landon Voss will be in handcuffs, and everyone who helped him will be explaining to federal prosecutors why they shouldn't spend the next decade in prison. You're lying. Check the news in 12 hours, then tell me if I'm lying. Cole opened his truck door. Ranger jumped in. Oh, and gentlemen, I have your license plates. Your faces are on the security cameras, and I'll be filing a report with local police, the honest ones, about this encounter. He paused. If I were you, I'd start thinking about my own exit strategy. He drove away. In his rearview mirror, he watched the 4 men standing in the rest stop parking lot, looking lost. His phone buzzed. Mara. It's happening tomorrow, she said. We have enough. The arrests start at 6 a.m. All of them? Landon Trevor, Brooke the lawyer, 6 police officers, including Hale's supervisor. Mara's voice held grim satisfaction. And based on what Hale gave us, probably 3 more by end of week. What about Hale? Cooperation agreement. He'll serve time, but less than he deserves. It was the only way to get him to flip completely. Cole thought about Hale, a man who had made terrible choices for understandable reasons, a man who had finally found the courage to do the right thing, even if it was too late. And the Thornes, they can come home. It's safe now. Cole exhaled a breath he hadn't known he was holding. Thank you, Mara. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You did the hard part. I just showed up. Sometimes showing up is the hardest part of all. She hung up. Cole drove through the night, heading for his mother's hospice. Tomorrow the world would change. Tonight, he just wanted to hold his mother's hand. The arrest began at 6:07 a.m. Cole watched from his truck parked across the street from the Voss mansion as 3 black SUVs rolled up the circular driveway. FBI agents in tactical gear moved with coordinated precision. The choreography of justice he had witnessed in a dozen countries now playing out in a quiet Virginia suburb. Landon Voss was still in his robe when they brought him out. The man who had run down an elderly couple, who had tried to beat a 70-year-old woman, who had built an empire on corruption and cruelty. He stumbled on his own front steps, face slack with disbelief. "This is a mistake," he shouted as they cuffed him. "Do you know who I am? My brother is the district attorney." "Your brother is currently being arrested at his home," the lead agent replied calmly. "Sir, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." Landon's eyes swept the street, desperate, searching for someone to save him. They landed on Cole. For a moment, the two men stared at each other. Landon's face contorted with rage, with hatred, with the desperate fury of a man who had finally run out of people to buy. "You!" Landon screamed. "You did this! I'll kill you!" "How?" The agents shoved him into the SUV. The door slammed shut. Cole didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't feel the satisfaction he had expected. He just felt tired. Ranger pressed against his leg, sensing the complex emotions swirling in his handler's chest. "It's done, boy," Cole murmured. "It's finally done." His phone buzzed. "Clara." "We saw it on the news," she said, voice trembling. "They're really arresting them. All of them." All of them. Landon, Trevor, the corrupt cops, everyone involved. "I can't believe it. After everything, after all those years of them getting away with..." She started crying. "Elias wants to talk to you." A shuffling sound. Then Elias's voice, stronger than Cole had heard it since the accident. "Commander Donovan, Mr. Thorne, I don't know how to thank you, what you've done for us, for this whole town. You don't need to thank me. You need to get well so you can testify." "Oh, I'll testify." Elias's voice carried fierce determination. "I'll tell everyone exactly what happened, what they did, what they tried to cover up." "Good. The prosecutors will be in touch. But first..." Cole paused. "First, go home. Sleep in your own bed. Walk past that corner where it happened and know that you won." "We won," Elias corrected. "All of us. Together." Cole ended the call. He sat in his truck for a long moment, watching the FBI finish their work at the Voss mansion. Evidence teams were arriving now, ready to tear apart the empire Landon had built on lies and blood. Then he drove to the hospice. His mother was waiting. Beatrice Donovan was having a good day. The nurses said those were rare now, days when the pain receded enough for her to sit up, to talk clearly, to be herself instead of the disease. Cole found her propped up in bed, watching the news on the small television in her room. "You're famous," she said as he entered. The screen showed Landon Voss being led away in handcuffs. The headline read, "Prominent developer arrested in corruption scandal. Navy SEAL credited with exposing truth." "I'm not famous. The news says a Navy SEAL helped bring down the Voss family. They don't say your name, but I know." Beatrice smiled weakly. A mother always knows. Cole sat beside her bed. Ranger settled at his feet, head resting near Beatrice's hand. "How are you feeling?" Tired but proud. Beatrice reached out and touched his face. "You did a good thing, Cole. Those people, the Thornes, they would have been destroyed without you. They were strong enough to fight for themselves. You stayed." Beatrice's eyes were bright despite her exhaustion. "When everyone else walked away, you stayed. That's not nothing. That's everything." Cole felt his throat tighten. He had faced enemy fire without flinching. He had watched friends die without breaking. But his mother's words hit something deep and vulnerable that all his training couldn't protect. "I should have been here more," he said quietly. "Instead of chasing..." "Don't." Beatrice's grip on his hand was surprisingly firm. "Don't apologize for being who you are. I raised you to stand up for what's right. I didn't expect you to stop doing that just because I got sick." "Mum, I'm dying, Cole." "We both know that. Weeks, days, maybe hours. It doesn't matter." She met his eyes. What matters is that you spent the time we had left being the man I raised. That's the only goodbye gift I need." Cole bowed his head. Tears fell on their joined hands. "I don't want you to go. Nobody ever does." Beatrice stroked his hair the way she had when he was a child. "But that's not how this works. We don't get to choose our endings. We only get to choose what we do with the time before them." They sat in silence for a while. Ranger's tail thumped softly against the floor, as if he understood that some moments needed no words. "Tell me about the Thornes," Beatrice said finally, "the couple you saved." So Cole told her about Elias and Clara's 50-year love story, about the Sunday walks, about Elias pushing his wife out of the path of the car, choosing her life over his own without hesitation. Beatrice listened, smiling. "That's what it's supposed to be," she said. "Love, not the movies and the songs. Just two people choosing each other every day, even when it costs everything." "Did you have that with Dad?" Beatrice was quiet for a moment. "Your father was a complicated man, brave and flawed and sometimes cruel without meaning to be. But yes, in the end I had that. He chose me, and I chose him. And out of that choice came you. I miss him." "So do I, every day." Beatrice closed her eyes. "But he's waiting somewhere on the other side of all this pain. And when I get there, I'm going to give him such a lecture about leaving us too soon." Cole laughed despite his tears. "He always said you could out-talk anyone." I can, I will." Beatrice's voice was fading, exhaustion claiming her. "Stay a while, just until I fall asleep." "I'll stay as long as you need." "Good." She squeezed his hand one last time. "Because I need you, Cole. I've always needed you, even when I couldn't say it." She drifted off. Cole stayed. Ranger kept watch at his feet. Outside, the world moved on. Arrests and headlines and the machinery of justice grinding forward. But in this small room, none of that mattered. What mattered was a mother's hand in her son's. What mattered was being present for the people who needed you. What mattered was love. The news cycle exploded over the next 48 hours. Every network ran the story. Voss empire crumbles. Decades of corruption exposed. Local officials implicated in cover-up scheme. Elderly couple nearly killed by drunk driver. Navy SEAL intervenes. The footage from Victor Kane's security camera played on every channel. Millions watched Landon Voss's Mercedes jump the curb. Watched Elias Thorne fly through the air. Watched the drunk driver stumble out and attack a 70-year-old woman. Public outrage was immediate and overwhelming. Protests formed outside the county courthouse. Demands for accountability filled social media. Journalists descended on Millbrook like locusts, hunting for anyone willing to talk. Cole refused all interviews. "I'm not the story," he told Mara when she asked why. "The Thornes are the story. The corruption is the story. I'm just a guy who was in the right place at the right time." "That's not how the public sees it." "Then the public sees it wrong." But the Thornes did talk. Elias gave his first interview from his wheelchair, Clara standing beside him, their hands clasped the way they had been for 50 years. The footage went viral within hours. "We were walking home from church," Elias said, voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "The same walk we've taken every Sunday since 1976. And in one moment, everything changed." "Were you scared?" the reporter asked. "Terrified, but not for myself, for Clara." Elias looked at his wife. "When I saw those headlights coming, all I could think was, I have to get her out of the way, I have to protect her." "And you pushed her." "I didn't think about it. After 50 years, she's not separate from me. Protecting her is the same as protecting myself." Clara was crying now, but she managed to speak. "When that man grabbed me, when he raised his hand, I thought it was over. I thought we'd survive the crash just to die at the hands of a monster." She took a shaky breath. "And then Commander Donovan appeared out of nowhere, like an angel. Can you describe what happened? He walked toward us so calmly. He wasn't afraid. He just said, 'That's enough,' and the whole world stopped." Clara wiped her eyes. "I've never seen anything like it. One man standing against evil, and evil backed down." The interview was watched by over 20 million people. Cole watched it alone in his truck, Ranger beside him. "They're making me sound like something I'm not," he said to the dog. Ranger tilted his head as if disagreeing. I'm not a hero. I couldn't walk away. That's different. Ranger's tail wagged. You're taking their side. The dog's expression suggested Cole was missing the point. The trial began 6 weeks later. It was held in a federal courthouse 2 hours from Millbrook, a change of venue requested by the prosecution to ensure an unbiased jury. The Voss family's influence didn't reach this far. Landon Voss looked nothing like the arrogant man who had run down Elias Thorne. His hair had thinned. His face was gaunt. The expensive suits had been replaced by jail-issue clothing that hung loose on his frame. He sat at the defendant's table like a man who had already been found guilty, eyes hollow with the knowledge of what was coming. His brother Trevor sat beside him. The former district attorney had aged a decade in 6 weeks. The man who had suppressed investigations and buried evidence now faced the full weight of the system he had corrupted. Elias was the first witness called. Cole watched from the gallery as the old man was wheeled to the witness stand, legs still healing, body still broken, but spirit undefeated. Mr. Thorne, the prosecutor began, can you describe the events of that Sunday evening? I can. Elias's voice was clear, strong. My wife and I were walking home from church. We were on the sidewalk, not the road, the sidewalk, when I saw headlights behind us, coming fast. Too fast. What did you do? I pushed Clara. I didn't think. I just acted. And then the car hit me. Can you describe the impact? I remember flying. I remember thinking, this is it. This is how I die. And then I was on the ground and everything hurt, and I could hear my wife screaming. What happened next? Elias's eyes moved to Landon Voss. He got out of his car, the defendant. He was drunk. I could smell it from where I was lying. And instead of helping us, instead of calling 911, he started screaming at us, blaming us for his accident. Did he touch you? He hit me twice. Elias's voice hardened. I was lying on the ground with a broken leg and a bleeding head, and he hit me. What about your wife? He grabbed her, shook her, and then he raised his hand to... Elias stopped, composed himself. That's when Commander Donovan arrived. Can you describe what Commander Donovan did? He stopped it. He walked up behind that man, caught his hand, and said, That's enough. No shouting, no violence, just absolute certainty. Elias looked toward Cole in the gallery. I've lived 70 years, and I've never seen courage like that. Not in war movies, not in stories. Real courage, in a real moment, when it mattered most. The courtroom was silent. One more question, Mr. Thorne. Why are you testifying today, after everything you've been through? The injuries, the threats, the attempts to silence you. Why are you here? Elias sat up straighter in his wheelchair. Because I'm 70 years old. I've lived a good life. I've loved a good woman. I've taught thousands of students and watched them grow into good people. His voice strengthened with each word. But if I stayed silent, if I let men like Landon Voss get away with hurting people, then what was any of it for? What does a good life mean if you won't stand up when it matters? He turned to look directly at Landon. You tried to kill me. You tried to hurt my wife. You tried to bury the truth. But you failed. Elias's voice rang through the courtroom. Because truth doesn't stay buried. Because good people don't stay silent. And because sometimes, God sends exactly the right person at exactly the right moment. The prosecution rested. Clara testified next. She was smaller than Elias, frailer in appearance, but her voice carried the same steel. He grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises, she said. He called me names I won't repeat. And when I tried to help my husband, he shoved me against the car. Were you afraid? More afraid than I've ever been in my life. Clara's eyes glistened. We were helpless. Elias couldn't move. I couldn't fight back. The police weren't coming. And this man, this angry, drunk man, was going to kill us because we'd had the audacity to exist in the wrong place at the wrong time. What saved you? Clara looked at Cole. A stranger. A man I'd never met who had no reason to help us, who risked everything to protect two people he'd never seen before. Her voice broke. I spent 70 years believing that there was good in the world. That night, I almost lost that belief. Commander Donovan gave it back to me. The defense attorney's cross-examination was brutal, but ineffective. He tried to suggest Elias and Clara had been jaywalking. The security footage proved otherwise. He tried to suggest Landon wasn't truly intoxicated. The blood alcohol results, obtained by federal investigators who hadn't been bought, showed he was nearly twice the legal limit. He tried to suggest Cole had used excessive force. But there was no force to show, only words, only presence, only the calm authority of a man who knew exactly what he was doing. By the third day of testimony, the defense was grasping at straws. By the fifth day, they were negotiating plea deals. The verdict came on a Thursday afternoon. Guilty on all counts. Landon Voss, vehicular assault, DUI, assault and battery, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Trevor Voss, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, corruption of public office, sentenced to 12 years. Deputy Garrett Hale, corruption, conspiracy, falsifying police reports, sentenced to 5 years, reduced for his cooperation. 6 other officers received sentences ranging from 2 to 8 years. The Voss Development Corporation was dissolved. Its assets were seized and distributed to victims of the family's decades of corruption. And in a small courtroom filled with people who had refused to stay silent, justice was finally served. Cole wasn't there for the verdict. He was at the hospice, holding his mother's hand. Beatrice Donovan died 3 days after the Voss verdict. It was peaceful, the nurses said. She went in her sleep, holding her son's hand with Ranger lying at the foot of her bed. Her last words were, "I'm proud of you, Cole. I've always been proud of you." Cole stayed with her for an hour after she was gone. He didn't cry. Not yet. That would come later, in private, when the world wasn't watching. But he felt something shift inside him. A door closing. A chapter. His mother was gone. The mission was complete. Now he had to figure out what came next. The funeral was small. Beatrice had wanted it that way. Family, friends, a few neighbors, the hospice staff who had cared for her in her final weeks, and, unexpectedly, Elias and Clara Thorne. They arrived in Victor Kane's truck. Elias still in his wheelchair. Clara walking beside him with the careful grace of a woman who had learned not to take any step for granted. "We hope we're not intruding," Clara said when she saw Cole. "But your mother, we wanted to pay our respects." "How did you even know?" "Small town, word travels." Clara touched his arm. "She raised a good man, Commander Donovan. A mother like that deserves to be honored." Elias wheeled himself forward. "I only met her once, at the hospital after everything happened. She was already sick then. But she took my hand and said," his voice caught. "She said, 'Take care of my boy. He carries too much alone.'" Cole felt his composure crack. "She always worried about me." "Mothers do." Clara smiled through her tears. "It's the job." They stood together at the graveside, an unlikely family brought together by violence and bound by something stronger. Ranger sat at Cole's feet, quiet and watchful, understanding in the way animals do that some pain has no cure. The pastor spoke words about eternal rest and heavenly reward. Cole barely heard them. He was thinking about his mother, about her strength and her sacrifice, about the way she had raised him to be someone who stood up, who showed up, who refused to look away. He was thinking about the Thornes, about their 50 years of love and their courage in the face of cruelty. He was thinking about Ranger, about 6 years of partnership, of loyalty, of a bond that transcended words. And he was thinking about what came next. The service ended. People drifted away with murmured condolences. Elias and Clara lingered. "What will you do now?" Elias asked. "With the trial over, your mother at peace, what comes next?" Cole looked at Ranger, at the sky, at the freshly turned earth that held his mother's body. "I don't know," he admitted. For so long there was always a mission, a purpose, something to fight for. He shook his head. "Now I'm not sure." Clara stepped forward. Her small hand took his. "You gave us our lives back," she said. "You gave us our faith back. You showed us that good still exists in a world that sometimes feels like it's drowning in darkness. She squeezed his hand. Maybe now it's time for someone to give something back to you. What do you mean? Come to dinner tomorrow night, our house. Nothing fancy, just food and conversation and people who care about you. You don't have to. We want to. Elias's voice was firm. You're family now, Commander, whether you like it or not. Cole looked at them. This elderly couple who had survived the worst and emerged with their love intact, who had refused to be silenced, who had stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. Okay, he said, tomorrow night. Clara's face lit up. 7 o'clock, don't be late. They left him standing at his mother's grave. Ranger pressed against his leg. The sun was setting, the air was cool, the world was quiet. Cole knelt beside the headstone. I did it, Mom, he whispered. I stayed, I fought, I won. The wind stirred the grass. It felt almost like an answer. I don't know what comes next, but I'll figure it out. He touched the cold stone. I'll make you proud, every day, for the rest of my life. Ranger whined softly. I know, boy, I know. Cole stood, straightened his shoulders, looked toward the horizon where the last light of day was fading. His mother was gone, but her lessons remained. Stand up, show up, stay. That was the legacy she had left him. That was the mission that would never end. Dinner at the Thorne house was nothing like Cole expected. He arrived at 7 sharp, Ranger at his heel, wearing civilian clothes that felt strange after weeks of uniforms and tactical gear. Clara opened the door before he could knock. You're early. Her eyes sparkled. I like that. Early is on time is late. Well, come in before the roast gets cold. Elias has been telling everyone you were coming. Everyone? Clara's smile widened mysteriously. Cole stepped inside and stopped. The small living room was full of people. Victor Kane stood by the fireplace, a beer in his hand and a grin on his weathered face. Agent Mara Ellis sat on the couch, out of uniform for once, looking almost relaxed. 2 nurses from the hospice, women who had cared for Beatrice in her final weeks, clustered near the kitchen. And in the corner, in his wheelchair with a blanket over his healing leg, Elias Thorne presided over everything like a silver-haired king. Surprise, Elias said dryly. What is this? A thank you party. Clara ushered him further inside. We wanted to do something proper. Something that showed you what you mean to us.
I don't need...
You don't get to decide what we need to give. Elias's voice was firm. You spent weeks fighting for us. Let us spend one evening celebrating you. Ranger had already made himself at home, accepting pets from the hospice nurses with dignified tolerance. Victor Kane approached with a second beer. Hell of a thing you did, Commander. Hell of a thing. You helped the footage. I handed over a thumb drive. You brought down an empire. Victor clinked his bottle against Cole's. Don't diminish what you did. Men like us don't take credit well, but sometimes we need to accept it. Mara joined them. He's right. You know the FBI has been trying to nail the Vosses for years. You did in weeks what we couldn't do in a decade. I had help. You had courage. The rest was details. Dinner was roast beef and potatoes and vegetables from Elias's garden. The garden he had been planning to expand with more tomatoes before a drunk driver's Mercedes changed everything. They sat around a table too small for so many people, shoulders touching, warmth spreading. Ranger lay under Cole's chair, accepting scraps that Clara pretended not to notice. Tell us about your mother, Elias said, after the plates were cleared. Beatrice, what was she like? Cole felt his throat tighten. She was everything. After my father died, she raised me alone, worked 2 jobs, never complained, never made me feel like I was a burden. She sounds strong, strongest person I ever knew. Cole stared at his empty plate. Even at the end, when the cancer was eating her from the inside, she never stopped being my mother, never stopped worrying about me, never stopped believing that I could do anything I set my mind to. Clara reached across the table and took his hand. She was right, she said softly. You can do anything. You proved that. I just did what needed to be done. That's what heroes always say. Elias leaned forward. But here's the thing, Commander. Most people see what needs to be done and walk away. They tell themselves it's someone else's problem, someone else's fight. They convinced themselves that nothing they do would make a difference anyway. I'm not a hero. You're exactly a hero, because heroes aren't people who feel no fear. Heroes are people who feel the fear and act anyway. Elias's eyes were bright with conviction. You stood in front of a drunk man twice your size. You faced down corrupt police. You took on one of the most powerful families in this state. And you did it for strangers, for people you'd never met before that night. Anyone would have... No. Mara's voice cut through. They wouldn't. I've been in law enforcement for 20 years. I've seen 1,000 people look the other way. I've seen witnesses develop amnesia. I've seen good people convince themselves that silence is safer than truth. She met his eyes. What you did is rare, Cole. Accept it. The room fell quiet. Ranger shifted under the chair, pressing closer to Cole's legs. I keep thinking about that night, Cole said slowly. About what would have happened if I'd taken a different route. If I'd been 5 minutes earlier or later. If I'd just kept driving. But you didn't, Clara squeezed his hand. God put you exactly where you needed to be. I'm not sure I believe in God. That's okay, Clara smiled. He believes in you. Cole looked at her, this 70-year-old woman who had survived violence and betrayal and the near death of her husband, who sat here now in her small house, surrounded by people who cared about her, with faith still shining in her eyes. How do you do it? He asked. After everything that happened, how do you still believe? Because of you. Clara's voice was simple, certain. Because when we were at our lowest, when everything seemed lost, a stranger appeared. A man with a good heart and a loyal dog walked out of the darkness and said, "That's enough." She smiled through her tears. If that's not proof of something greater, I don't know what is. After dinner, Cole found himself on the Thornes' back porch, staring at the stars. Ranger lay beside him, nose resting on his paws. The dog's eyes were half closed, but his ears remained alert, always listening, always ready. The door opened behind him. Elias wheeled himself onto the porch. Escaping the crowd. Just needed some air. Mind if I join you? It's your porch. Elias positioned his wheelchair beside Cole's chair. For a moment, neither spoke. The night sounds of suburbia surrounded them. Distant traffic, a neighbor's television, a dog barking 3 houses over. I've been thinking, Elias said finally, about what happens next for all of us. The trial's over. The Vosses are in prison. What else is there? That's exactly what I mean. Elias turned to face him. You spent months fighting for us. You lost your mother. You put your life on hold for strangers. His voice softened. What do you do now? Cole didn't answer immediately. The question had been haunting him since his mother's funeral. I don't know, he admitted. I'm on leave for another 2 months. After that, I have orders to report to Virginia Beach. New assignment. Do you want to go? It's not about want, it's about duty. Duty to whom? The question surprised Cole. He looked at Elias, really looked, at the old man who had pushed his wife out of the path of a speeding car, who had taken the hit himself, who had refused to stay silent even when everything told him to. To my country, my team. And what about your duty to yourself? Cole had no answer. My father was military, Elias said. Korea. He came back different. Spent the rest of his life serving causes that weren't his own because he didn't know how to serve himself. Elias's voice was gentle. I watched him fade. Not all at once, gradually, year by year, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but a uniform and a sense of obligation. What happened to him? Heart attack, 62 years old, alone in his apartment. Elias's eyes glistened. He never learned that duty to others has to include duty to yourself, that you can't pour from an empty cup. I'm not empty. Not yet, but you're getting there. Elias reached out and gripped Cole's arm. You've given so much, Commander. To your country, to your team, to us. Maybe it's time to figure out what you want to receive. Ranger lifted his head and looked at Cole as if endorsing Elias's words. I don't know how to stop, Cole said quietly. Fighting is all I know. Then find something worth fighting for. Something that fills you up instead of draining you. Elias released his arm. You're 35 years old. You have decades ahead of you. Don't spend them all running toward danger just because you're afraid of what happens when you stop. Cole stayed at the Thornes until almost midnight. They talked about everything and nothing, about Beatrice's life and Elias's teaching career, about Clara's years as a choir director and Ranger's training, about the small moments that made up a life and the large ones that defined it. When he finally left, Clara pressed something into his hands. "What's this?" "A key," she smiled. "To our house. Your family now, whether you like it or not. That means you always have a place to come home to." Cole stared at the small piece of metal. It weighed almost nothing, but it felt heavier than anything he'd carried in years. "I can't accept—" "You already have." Elias wheeled himself forward. "The door is always open, Commander, for you and Ranger both."
Elias, no arguments.
The old man's voice was firm. "You gave us back our lives. The least we can do is give you a place to rest when you're tired." Cole tucked the key into his pocket. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." "Thank you," Clara hugged him, a quick, fierce embrace that reminded him of his mother, "for showing us that good still wins sometimes." He drove back to his motel in silence. Ranger sat in the passenger seat, watching the road with the patience of a creature who had learned that some journeys had no clear destination. "What do you think, boy?" Cole asked. "What do we do now?" Ranger's tail wagged once. It wasn't an answer, but it felt like acknowledgement. 3 weeks later, Cole made his decision. He stood in the office of Rear Admiral James Whittaker, no relation to the corrupt developer, and delivered news that surprised everyone, including himself. "I'm requesting a discharge." The Admiral studied him for a long moment. "You're one of the best SEALs I've ever commanded. Why would you want to leave?" "Because I've given 15 years to the teams. I've done everything that was asked of me, and more." Cole met the Admiral's eyes. "But I've also missed funerals, missed birthdays, missed the last months of my mother's life, because there was always one more mission, one more deployment, one more enemy to fight. That's the job." "I know, and I've done the job well, but maybe it's time to do something else." Cole paused. "There are enemies here at home, Admiral. Corruption, injustice, people who prey on the vulnerable and think their money makes them untouchable. You want to fight that? I want to make sure that when a drunk driver runs over an elderly couple, someone is there to stop him. I want to make sure that when powerful people try to bury the truth, someone is there to dig it up. I can't do that from a base in Virginia Beach. I can't do that with deployment orders and chain of command and the 1,000 obligations that come with this uniform." The Admiral was quiet for a long time. "The Voss case," he said finally. "That changed you. It reminded me why I started fighting in the first place. Not for medals or mission reports, for people, for the ones who can't fight for themselves." "And you think you can do more good as a civilian?" "I think I can try." The Admiral stood, extended his hand. "I'll approve the discharge. Honorable, obviously, with every commendation you've earned." He gripped Cole's hand firmly. "You've served with distinction, Commander. Whatever you do next, know that your country is grateful." "Thank you, sir." "And Cole?" "Sir? Don't lose yourself out there. The world needs people like you, but only if you're whole." Cole nodded. "I'll do my best." He walked out of the Admiral's office with Ranger at his heel. For the first time in 15 years, he wasn't a sailor. He was just a man with a dog and a key to a house that wasn't his own. It felt terrifying. It felt right. Cole returned to Millbrook in the spring. The town had changed in subtle ways. New streetlights had been installed along the roads. A memorial garden had been planted at the corner where Elias was hit. The police department had been reformed from the ground up. New leadership, new policies, new accountability. But some things remained the same. Elias and Clara still walked home from church every Sunday. They moved slower now, Elias with a cane, Clara with her arm through his, but they walked. They refused to let fear steal their ritual. Victor Kane still maintained his security cameras. He had become something of a local celebrity, the gruff Marine whose footage had brought down the Voss Empire. He handled the attention with typical grace, mostly by glaring at anyone who mentioned it. And Ranger still bounded toward the Thorne house every time Cole's truck appeared, tail wagging with the pure joy of a creature who had found his pack. Cole had taken the key Clara gave him and done something unexpected with it. He bought the house next door. "You're not serious," Elias said when he heard, as a heart attack. "But why? You could go anywhere, do anything." "I could." Cole looked at the small house, at the garden that needed tending, at the porch that needed painting. "But I want to be here, with people who became family when I wasn't looking." Clara hugged him so hard he couldn't breathe. "Welcome home," she whispered. Home. The word felt foreign on Cole's tongue. He had spent so long moving from base to base, mission to mission, that the concept had become abstract. Home was where the Navy sent you. Home was temporary. Home was something other people had. But now, standing in the spring sunshine with Ranger at his side and neighbors who had become family, Cole understood something he had been missing for years. Home wasn't a place. Home was the people who chose you. And these people had chosen him. 1 year after the accident, the town of Millbrook held a ceremony. It was Clara's idea, a way to honor the people who had fought for justice and to remind everyone that truth had won. The gathering was small but meaningful. Victor Kane was there, looking uncomfortable in a suit he clearly hadn't worn in decades. Agent Mara Ellis had flown in from Washington. The hospice nurses came. Even Deputy Garrett Hale attended, looking older and smaller than Cole remembered, but present, doing his community service by helping organize the event. Elias spoke first. "1 year ago, my wife and I were walking home from church. It was a beautiful evening, quiet, peaceful, the kind of evening you think will last forever." His voice was steady, but his eyes were bright with emotion. And then a car came out of nowhere, and everything changed. He paused. "I spent weeks in the hospital, weeks in physical therapy, weeks learning to walk again with a leg that would never be the same." Elias gripped his cane. "But I also spent weeks witnessing something I thought I'd lost faith in. I witnessed courage. I witnessed sacrifice. I witnessed ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they believed that truth mattered." His gaze found Cole in the crowd. Commander Donovan could have driven past that night. He could have called 911 and let someone else handle it. He could have decided that 2 old people weren't worth the risk. Elias's voice cracked. But he didn't. He stopped. He stood between us and violence. He gave us back our lives. Clara stepped forward, taking her husband's arm. "We're not here to celebrate what happened," she said. "We're here to remember what it taught us, that evil is real, but so is goodness. That power can corrupt, but truth can overcome. That when one person stands up, others find the courage to stand with them." She looked at the memorial garden, at the flowers blooming where violence had once occurred. "This is what we built from our worst night, beauty from ashes, hope from despair, a reminder that no matter how dark things get, light finds a way through." Cole was invited to speak, but he declined. Instead, he stood in the back with Ranger, watching the community that had adopted him gather around the people he had helped save. Mara found him there. Not one for speeches, not one for attention. "Funny, for someone who doesn't like attention, you've gotten a lot of it." Cole shrugged. "I just did what needed to be done. Other people made it important." That's the thing about heroism. The hero never sees it that way. It's always just what needed to be done. But the people who are saved, they see it differently. "I'm not a hero." "You keep saying that." Mara smiled. "Maybe someday you'll believe it. But until then, let me tell you what I see. I see a man who gave up his career to fight corruption, who lost his mother while saving strangers, who bought a house next to 2 elderly people he barely knew because he couldn't stand the thought of them facing the world alone. That's not heroism, that's just... It's love, Cole." Mara's voice softened. "That's what heroism is. Love in action. Putting yourself in harm's way because someone else's life matters more to you than your own comfort." Ranger pressed against Cole's leg. "Even your dog knows it," Mara added. "Look at him. He followed you into everything. The confrontation, the investigation, the danger, because he loves you. And you took him into all of it because you love him back." Cole looked down at Ranger. The German shepherd's amber eyes met his with the steady devotion that had sustained him through the hardest year of his life. Yeah, Cole said quietly. I guess I do. The ceremony ended as the sun set. People drifted home, back to their lives, back to the ordinary routines that made up a community. The memorial garden stood quiet now, its flowers swaying gently in the evening breeze. Cole stayed behind. He walked to the spot where Elias had fallen, where blood had stained the grass, where a man's body had been broken by arrogance and alcohol and the casual cruelty of the privileged. Ranger walked beside him, patient and present. I never told you why I was driving that way that night, Cole said quietly to the darkness. Why I was on that road at that exact moment. Ranger tilted his head. I was coming from the hospice. Mum had just told me she was ready to die, that she wanted me to stop fighting and let her go. Cole's voice cracked. I was so angry. At God, at the universe, at whatever force had decided that the one person who had always believed in me didn't deserve to die in pain. I wanted to keep driving forever, to outrun the grief that was waiting for me, to pretend that if I never stopped moving, nothing could catch me. A tear slid down his cheek. And then I saw the headlights, saw the impact, saw Clara screaming and Elias bleeding and a drunk man raising his hand to hit a 70-year-old woman. Cole touched the earth, and suddenly I knew why I was there, not by accident, by design. Ranger pressed his head against Cole's shoulder. My mother told me once that grief and purpose are woven together, that the deepest pain points us toward the deepest meaning. Cole stood slowly. She was right, she usually was. He looked at the stars beginning to appear overhead. I don't know if there's a God, Mom. I don't know if you can hear me. But if you can, thank you for raising me to be someone who stops, someone who stands, someone who believes that one person can make a difference. The wind stirred the flowers. It felt like an answer. Cole walked home in the gathering darkness. Home. The word still surprised him sometimes. But not tonight. Tonight it felt exactly right. Clara was on her porch, as she often was in the evenings. Elias sat beside her, a blanket over his legs, watching the stars the way he had watched them for 70 years. Nice night, Elias called out. It is. Come sit with us. Cole walked across the lawn that separated their houses. Ranger bounded ahead, greeting Clara with the enthusiasm of a puppy in a dog's body. How are you holding up? Clara asked. Better, day by day. That's how it works. She scratched behind Ranger's ears. Day by day, until suddenly you realize you've built a life out of moments you thought would break you. Cole settled into the empty chair on their porch. 3 people and a dog sitting in comfortable silence, watching the night deepen around them. Elias, Cole said eventually, can I ask you something? Anything. That night, when you saw the car coming, why did you push Clara instead of yourself? Why didn't you try to save yourself? Elias was quiet for a long moment. Because I've loved her for 50 years, he said simply. And in 50 years, you learn that some things are more important than survival. Some people are more important than everything. Clara took her husband's hand. I would have done the same for him. Any day, any moment, without hesitation. That's what love is, Elias added. Not poetry or passion or grand gestures. Just the quiet certainty that this person, this one person out of all the billions on earth, matters more to you than you matter to yourself. Cole looked at Ranger. At the dog who had followed him into danger countless times, who had stood between him and violence without being asked, who had been his companion through the darkest year of his life. Yeah, Cole said, I think I understand. They sat together until the stars filled the sky. 3 people who had found each other through violence and chosen to become family. 1 dog who had never stopped believing his human was worth protecting. And 1 truth that had emerged from the darkness, bright and undeniable. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives become the foundation for the best. Sometimes strangers become family. Sometimes one man with a dog can change everything. And sometimes, justice prevails. Not because the world is fair, not because the powerful face automatic consequences, but because somewhere in every generation there are people who refuse to look away, who stand when it would be easier to kneel, who speak when silence would be safer. They are not perfect. They are not fearless. They are not special in any way that can be measured or predicted. They are simply people who decided that truth matters more than comfort, that courage matters more than safety, that love matters more than everything. And on a quiet Virginia evening, with the stars overhead and family beside him, Cole Donovan finally understood what his mother had tried to teach him his entire life. The world doesn't change because heroes exist. The world changes because ordinary people choose to be heroic, one moment at a time, one choice at a time, one stand at a time. If this story has touched your heart, remember that you carry the same power. You can be the one who stops. You can be the one who speaks. You can be the one who stands between cruelty and its target. All it takes is the decision that some things are worth fighting for. Comment your city below. Tell us your pet's name. Share this with someone who needs to know that courage still exists. And may God bless you with the strength to stand when standing is hard, with the wisdom to see when seeing is painful, and with the love to act when action costs everything. Because that is what changes the world. Not power, not money, not position. Just ordinary people making extraordinary choices. One heart at a time. One moment at a time.